back to the channel. My name is Type 3 Toys, and today we are going to take a look at the HIYA Toys Exquisite Basic Skull Devil figure. After playing with this figure for a few days, I can say that it absolutely delivers on a lot of what it was trying to offer when it decided to enter the action figure game. There are still a few things about it that sort of rub me the wrong way, and we'll go over all that in the video. But first, I want to talk about paint and sculpt. The figure's base plastic that it's cast in seems to be a greenish, grayish, olive-ish type plastic with a sometimes white or black or green spray sort of washed on top. The sculpting on this figure is also really, really good. There's a lot of deep grooves that are brought forward through use of the different paint applications on it. And the paint and the sculpt really work together to make this figure feel like it walked right off the screen. And as somebody who collects mostly Bandai vinyls, this is very appreciated. The paint applications that really stand out on this figure are the bone white that you can see on the forearms, the hands or feet maybe, and the head. However, there is one QC issue that I do have to bring up, and that is on the jowl/gum connecting piece that brings the top and the bottom of the mouth together. That is a rubber insert. So when you move the mouth, that rubber piece opens and closes with it. It's not hard plastic. And you can see by after just a little bit of use, that rubber insert is starting to rip. Ultimately, it's not super noticeable. However, it does not give me a lot of faith in the longevity of the rest of that insert. And I'm worried that at some point, it might just crumble away.
So next up, when talking about articulation and scaling, I think this is the reason that most people are going to want to look at this figure. The only other, I guess, fully articulated Skullcrawler we've ever gotten was the Playmates Toys version back from the Godzilla vs. Kong days. But even besides him, these guys are two totally different monsters. This one, of course, is from the Kong film. This one is, I believe, named Subject 10 in Godzilla vs. Kong. It's the one that Mechagodzilla rips in half. So these are two totally different monsters, but without a question, this guy is more articulated than any Skullcrawler we've gotten so far. First, looking at the head, the mouth can fully open and close. And I've seen some people have issues where if you open the mouth kind of to its like maximum level, the gums and the little rubber inserts on the inside will seemingly force it closed. Not all the way, but like just a little bit like that. Mine hasn't had that issue. I can seemingly open mine all the way and it will stay. So maybe it's just a case by case thing, or maybe you just have to push it a little bit. But again, closes fine. There's a ball joint at the base of the head and another at the base of the neck, which allows for pretty good up, pretty good down, and then some pretty nice side to side. The up and down is, I think, the most important just because this guy is short. He's always going to be looking up at whoever he's fighting, whether it's photography or just even in the movie. So the fact that he can look up and the sculpt of his head is actually designed for that, like he's sort of pre-posed looking up. So all of that helps just for sort of getting this guy in a cool display. Looking at the arms, there's a hinge that will allow you to go all the way up and down, as well as a full 360. There's a bicep cut, double jointed elbow, which goes in pretty far for some really low crouching poses. There's also another hinge at the hand, which goes up, down, full 360. However, you can kind of spin this hinge to use it as what I guess on this guy would be an ankle tilt. If you sort of rotate the hand a little bit, the hinge will move with it, and then you can really splay this guy out nice and low for some cool sort of intimidating angles. Looking at the rest of his body, there's a few more ball joints that allow him just for some nice curvature up and down, a little bit more side to side. But the tail is, I think, what most people are going to have questions about. This tail is a bendy wire tail, and in the past, I'm not a huge fan of bendy wire tails. My biggest experience with them is on the NECA Godzilla figures, where the fact that they're bendy wire kind of doesn't matter because they really don't move at all. This one, I could say I'm quite surprised, moves pretty well. It comes straight out of the package, and this was my best attempt before filming this section to get it back straight. But if you have this guy's tail straight, you're playing with him wrong. His tail can move really, really well. You can get a really tight curl in there, which is really, really cool. And you can wrap another monster in there. I took some fun photos when I got this guy of him wrapped around my SHMA Kong. And he just looks really good. I have hopes that the bendy wire doesn't break, as I assume all of you guys would as well. It seems that the wire only runs to about here on the tail, so you're not really going to be able to move any of this with it staying. However, again, it is very responsive here. The rubber is seemingly just thin enough where it'll allow the bendy wire to sort of get the maximum potential out of it. And again, it looks really good, and you can get a lot of really cool poses with how bendy that wire is.
So the fairly standard articulation scheme on the top half of the figure, combined with that really useful bendy wire on the bottom half of the figure, allows you to get some crazy poses. I was able to get this guy standing up just on his tail with no extra support. It's a little bit goofy, but you can do it. Next up, I would like to look at this guy's accessories. However, he does not come with any. I can't say it's surprising. The Skull Devil doesn't really do anything outside of just being itself. It doesn't have a beam or anything crazy like that. However, if I were to add one more thing to this package to sort of fill it out a little bit more, it would be maybe an extra set of hands? Something a little bit more claw-like, because the hands that come stock on this figure are a little bit flat and it's sometimes hard to make them look expressive. When it comes to scaling this guy up and seeing where he would fit in your display, he scales to about the same size as the 2021 Playmates Skullcrawler, and while I don't have the HIYA 2021 Kong to compare this guy to, he does scale well with the NECA Kong and the SHMA 2021 Kong. And here he is with just a few other figures that you might have in your display. Now enjoy some pictures of this guy that I took to some royalty-free music. When it comes to finding a final verdict, this guy has a lot of pros. The paint application and the sculpt really work together to make this figure pop on a shelf. The articulation scheme at first, while kind of conventional, really unlocks once you make full use of that bendy wire tail. And his scale, like we just saw, is pretty universal. You can have him in a display as just a normal Skullcrawler, or you can have him facing off against Kong as the Skull Devil. This guy isn't all great though. There are a few cons that I want to talk about. For me, the biggest one is the empty box combined with the MSRP. This figure retails for about $50, and when you open the box, it doesn't really feel like it. It feels very empty. Like mentioned before, I don't really know what other accessories they could have added with this guy, but it would have been nice to get some extra hands, some tree dioramas or rocks, just something to fill out that box and make it really feel like $50. There's also the QC issue that I mentioned with the mouth. I think that really comes down to how much that bothers you in particular. For me, I don't really find it noticeable enough to warrant being upset about. However, I do see why people would be concerned. So with all that being said, I am super excited to finally have a figure like this in my collection, and it is certainly replacing the Playmates Skullcrawler in my Monsterverse display. That brings us to the end of our video. Follow my Instagram at type3_toys, and like, comment, and subscribe if you want to stay tuned and see more of my videos that are coming soon.